China struggled for 10 years to create a new metropolis amid the greatest desert. American experts were stunned by this insane, massive effort. We are all aware of how difficult the living conditions are in the desert, which is a lifeless, barred region. Sand has totally covered it. Because of the lack of rain, neither animals nor vegetation can thrive in the desert. Desert greening has spread around the world, and people are now much more aware of desert. But why is China regressing and displacing people to dwell in the desert? What sort of lifestyle do people lead here? One of the nations with the greatest desert territory, the broadest hardship, and significant risks of desertification is China. The Tacoma Desert is the most well-known in China. The hinterland of this desert is where this miraculous city is located. This little town is also the only desert city in China. There are 20,000 residents in this area. They relocate here from various Chinese towns since this desert has an abundance of oil resources that may be extracted. To survive, they had to relocate to the desert. Given that the desert is one of the hottest and lowest regions on Earth, surviving there would definitely provide enormous problems. Here, it seldom rains. The minimal summer rainfall is only 4 to 5 millimeters, while the average annual precipitation does not reach 100 millimeters. In the winter, the temperature may reach 67 degrees Celsius here. It is currently below 20 degrees Celsius here. To fulfill the task of oil extraction in such a hostile environment, 1/3 of the year is a sandstorm day. They have been residents of the desert metropolis for 7 years at this point, and they also represent the initial group of individuals responsible for sand control. How much oil is available then? China is a significant oil consumer. The majority of the oil is imported from abroad, which is very expensive. China has devoted decades of persistence since the 1950s. Finally, in 1984, a significant amount of oil and many oil fields were found on the border of the Tacoma Desert. The oil field has up to 7.5 billion tons of reserves. This oil will last China for 10 years if it doesn't import anymore. They have to extract the oil here because they want to be in the desert nevertheless. Oil extraction is incredibly tough. The world's largest quicksand region, which is also the most mysterious, is located here. Because of the buildup of yellow sand, people refer to this desert as the Sea of Death. Stormy winds and a lack of water supplies. To diagnose the drinking water issue, the water supply must be brought in from outside the community where people reside. The absence of a road to the outside world during the early stages of development allowed for the easy entry of large-scale equipment for exploration and development into the desert hinterland and the seamless transportation of the oil and gas recovered from the desert. Since 1990, residents of this metropolis have made the decision to cross this Sea of Death and construct several highways to the outside world. The first road, which spans more than 500 kilometers and runs from north to south through the desert, took China 5 years to construct. Since then, the road's length has been steadily increased, and branch roads have also appeared to assure the growth of oil and gas resources. China will construct 4 more external access roads in this desert during the next 10 years. 5 highways now connect this desert to the outer world. With roads, it is no longer a life-restricted region and people are free to enter and exit. The second issue that has to be resolved is sand control. There are 20,000 residents in this area. This city, which took 10 years to develop, will soon be engulfed by quicksand if the sand and dust issue is not resolved. The sandstorm will also cause a health problem for the locals, and they will finally die in 2000. China started organizing personnel to carry out large-scale sand prevention and control, so that the desert greening has become the second task of oil workers here. This was done to allow the residents of this city to have a healthy living environment and to prevent the roads on both sides of the desert from being buried by quicksand. The hay was artificially woven into squares and planted in the desert, radiating more than 100 meters on both sides of the road as part of their sand fixing and greening operations. Afterward, create a partition plant by standing in the midst of the grass squares while using geotextile squares with trees. Drip irrigation is used across the whole green belt, and irrigation and booster stations are installed every 2 kilometers or more. These stations have been maintained for many years by forest rangers. 20 years after being planted in the desert, populist youth Pratica has developed into a massive tree. After several years of study, those who live here no longer perceive the yellow sand in the sky, and they start to see the green vibrancy here. Out of more than 70 varieties of plants that can withstand extreme temperatures, wind, and sand, researchers chose 4 plant species that are suited for thriving in the desert. These surviving plants successfully slowed down the desert's movement on both sides of the route and blocked quicksand's recurrent harassment of the road. The Tacoma Desert's Protection Forest Ecological Project has been in place on both sides of the 5 roadway since 2003. More than 3,500 hectares of greenery have been planted on both sides with a width of more than 70 meters. Excellent plants for sand fixation and windbreak include jujube, which grows on 300,000 hillocks together with 20,000 people. You, Friedricha, are situated in the Tacoma Corn Desert's hinterland. Additionally, tens of thousands of kilometers of water supply pipelines have been installed on both sides of the road in order to provide plants with adequate water sources. Additionally, solar water supply stations have been built here, allowing 86 photovoltaic power stations to pump water to provide plant water sources as well as to safeguard the greening of, well, houses. After 20 years of sand control effort, workers accomplished 24-hour illumination, and the first desert highway project with 0 carbon emissions was completed. There is no longer a barren, lifeless Tacoma cotton desert after the cities and the adjacent peasants' laborious work. In the Tacoma Cotton Desert, a green corridor has been established. Large-scale oil exploration and development have awoken this fascinating location after the greening work of 1,000 mu was finished. Oil workers not only extracted oil from this enormous desert, but also built roadways and managed the sand, resulting in a remarkable green miracle. This is the effective effort made by humans to manage the Tacoma Cotton Desert, which no one visited, has since developed into a popular tourist destination, which not only stimulates the local economy, but also enhances the quality of life in the area. It is lovely. There weren't any animals here before. Now, vegetation is present on both sides of the route through the desert. Since the green promenade here is steadily spreading, more than 100 kinds of birds have moved and settled along this green channel, and the biological environment in the desert hinterland has gradually emerged. As a result, the inhabitants of this desert city are no longer isolated. With the desert's transformation, every day, more and more individuals visit this area to play. Additionally, the city has become a popular tourist spot. The activity in scenic areas is increasing. This location will one day become a well-known tourist destination. Here, the lives of oil employees are no longer monotonous. Sand control is now being done by an increasing number of people. People wish to give sacrificially to the desert's reforestation. In my opinion, as more people move here, this desert will develop into a decent area for everyone to live. According to the research of specialists, China will also find a valuable resource in the Tacoma Desert in 2022, which is water resources. Although the water reserves under the desert will be close to 7 billion cubic meters, mining is still required in the desert due to present technologies. Wait, here's one more exciting project you didn't hear about. New China's 15,000 km underwater project, undersea cable to Germany. The world is shocked. Click on this video to watch.